Life's weird, man. You know, it's weird, Mark, that we met. That it's the podcast is weird. It's weird that we know Mark from Boston, up New England way, that just quit his job and is free falling
Yeah.
without a good plan, and he's gonna
Yeah.
come see us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-discovery. A
Yeah.
trip of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Life's weird. Life's cool.
You are my midlife crisis.
Hope it works out for you.
On tonight's episode of the K12 Tech Talk podcast, we get an update on Chris's SIS implementation woes. I give some lessons learned from a recent FBI security audit, and Josh grills me on what I've learned as CIO. Have a listen.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K12 Tech Talk podcast. I am Josh. This is episode 174. Chris is here.
Hello?
And Mark is here.
Hello.
It's a little bit of a celebratory week. This is July. I almost said February. This is July 18th. Tomorrow is Mark's last day. Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
I was just because of that, I was just Google image searching Mark.
Oh,
really?
why are we doing that?
Saw some doozies.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. You know, there was
Look, there's young Mark.
Oh gosh. There was a hostage situation in Connecticut this year from a guy named Mark with my last name. And
Yeah.
whole bunch of Google alerts that day. Had to explain to my family that wasn't me. I'm still okay.
You Google alert yourself?
Yeah, you don't?
No.
Gonna have to Google Josh right now.
There's this funny one. It's a picture of Mark, and it's receives first shipment of Chromebooks for, I guess, quarantine, and Mark looks very puzzled by this was a computer? Like he has like a
Oh, that's a
Oh,
great story.
I'm
So
touching
Wait, we'll get into that in a minute, Mark.
No, that's a great story of that photo. But yeah, I was exactly puzzled. The puzzling look was, you want me to you want to stage a photo of me opening a computer? This is how a computer works. So
it looks
yeah.
like you're like, this isn't Windows.
Where's my Mac OS?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So yeah,
I'm screenshot. We'll put this in the podcast description.
Mark will be unemployed as of tomorrow. So if you know any jobs for Mark, he's currently looking to rent himself out. We're not sure what the rate is, but he can help. Speaking of NTP,
with anything.
with anything, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Do you want to add some clarifications of things of like,
No,
I'm not,
no,
okay.
no. That's how you set your hourly rate, is dependent on the job, Mark. If it's a less desirable job, the higher the rate. Let's talk about NTP real quick, though. I talked to David today about something. He's onboarded a number of new school districts in the last week or so, and from what I understand, there are a number of several more getting ready to come online in the next couple weeks. So if you are on the fence about getting SentinelOne, a top tier EDR managed by a top tier SOC, reach out to David D. Wren, WREN, at ntp-inc.com. He did not update me on his Olympic speed wall climbing career, but I guess he's not going to France because he's going to be at Midwest Tech Talk next week, right, Chris?
He is. NTP, they're going to be at Midwest Tech Talk. David will be there. Zach will be there. And I'm excited as I can be talking about FCC stuff. Their session is on the cybersecurity pilot because there's that long list of eligible items. And there needs to be some kind of breakdown of what those items might actually apply to. Like, this typically means this kind of product or this kind of solution. So they're going to dig into that at Midwest Tech Talk. And they're also, of course, sponsoring our back to school event August 7th. That's a virtual event. You can sign up for that. That's going to be posted on K12 Sysadmin as well. And then we'll be in Richmond, Virginia, September 20th for the Southeast region. That thing's only $25 to come and hang out with us. And NTP will be there too. Good guys, NTP.
NTP is great guys. David and Zach. Sorry. Chris, what are you? Oh, yeah, you want to? Oh, look, can I get a big shout out to Dell real quick? Can I tell this Chromebook story?
Is that like a custodian at your school, Mr. Dale?
Yeah, Mr. Dell. Uh, so we had this Chromebook RFP back in the spring, and it was a disaster. Um, Overpromised from a vendor, and then the manufacturer said we're not going to honor that response because long story. Ended up going with Dell. They were the second low bid. For the last 5 years, we've bought cases with Chromebooks, and we've requested each year that the cases get put on the Chromebook as part of white glove service. Like it's logical, right? You're going to buy these cases from this vendor. You're buying white glove. Put the freaking cases on the device while you have it out joining the domain, right? No one has ever done it. Magically, every vendor ships us the cases. Oh, we forgot. Oh, that was a mistake. Okay. Yeah, right. So we always end up putting them on, and it's horrible. Our fingers are bleeding by the end of it. It's just awful. So when Dell got this contract for these Chromebooks, it was part of the conversation. Look, we need the cases put on. And they're like, oh yeah, no big deal. No big deal. I'm like, yeah, right. And then we also had a conversation I said, hey, it'd be great if you could palletize these based on what building they're going to and if they had cases or not, because we're sending 600 devices to one building, but only half are getting cases because only half are going home. The rest are living in carts. Would you believe Dell pulled this off?
Nice.
They applied all 600 cases, and then they palletized them, labeled by building, intermediate school, high school, and then they also labeled it each box, whether the devices in that box had cases on them or were caseless. Freaking outstanding, Dell. So that's a free plug, Dell. I appreciate it. Awesome. Chris, what you have a complaint, or you were whining about something?
Well, but I got really distracted about this picture I found of Mark.
He does. There's a amount of shock.
I just put it in the chat.
Well, Chris, you'll have to have our executive assistant Erica tweet that later in the week.
Do you want me to just open up about Infinite Campus?
Well, I mean, you said you wanted to talk about it. That was a topic pre-show.
Well, yeah, because I haven't really gotten to talk. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people trying to get help, but I've been reflecting. This time last year, right around Midwest Tech Talk.
And this complaint session goes out to Steven. He enjoys Chris's campus complaints.
And Steven helped me this week. I remember attending Midwest Tech Talk last year and snickering and smiling and laughing and trying to give encouragement to people that were going through the process of leaving Tyler Sys to go to Infinite Campus. And
yeah, you were
can't
mean.
Be that bad.
You were mean to me.
But this week is the week that I was told about. Like, it's been the worst. It's been a really bad week. This is the week that Infinite Campus, we do like the big calls where they've looked at your data and they tell you all that is wrong.
Data.
I've had to talk to counselors to come back in and secretaries to come back in and to get the principals involved for these folks to come back in, my superintendent in the loop of things like this, because we're trying to get final pieces put together. I've had several longer evenings than I'm used to. The equivalency, right, of like when a network switch goes down.
Sure.
When a server is having big issues. Only this is with student data that I don't enjoy messing with. So I just, like, I'm hoping that because I remember, like, Josh, I remember you being a little more disconnected from me and being a little more grumpy pants.
Yeah.
I remember Eric, the intern, like, quitting his job.
That was pretty dramatic, but yeah.
Yeah. I remember, like, Jay at K12 Tech Pro is a different person than he was before this week.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, like, stay above it. Like
Oh
keep my
no,
headspace above it.
it's completely affecting you. You snapped at me more than once this week.
Sorry, what's this week? Like you described, there's a bunch of stuff. What is the short
They
sentence of what's happening this week?
they look at the data that they've brought in, that they've converted from the old system, and
They
they
did
look
like a
at
final look, like they did a final move.
Okay.
they look at the settings and the preparation that you've done to, like, if we were to hit the button right now and go live right now, would this thing float or would this thing sink?
Got it. Okay.
And they are brutally honest with you and make you feel pretty small.
So for like
Um,
me, we had like an attendance code called present that would have actually marked all the kids absent.
Yeah, uh, a thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty like, and you're like, well, that's not good. But then there are things in there with like, well, we trained on that 3 months ago, and I was bantering Josh about this, where I'm like, yeah, I've attended every single Zoom call and every single, I have personally sat. I think there was one meeting that I missed a majority of it. So, but besides that, I have personally sat through all these things. So if you're showing me a screen that isn't configured right and I have no recollection of it, I don't think you went over it. Like I really don't. So there's this weird feeling of like you're getting in trouble, but maybe it's because you had a bad teacher. Like that's why you didn't learn the thing.
Oh, blame the teacher.
There's some tension.
Mark appreciates that. He used to be a teacher. Blame the teacher.
And it's also the weird or the it's not weird, it's terrible moment of all the buildings have known, all your secretaries, all your counselors, all your data people, they had all this homework to do, and you're thinking they're doing it, and they are doing it, but this is the week that you see all the things that are missed. It's not good.
So is the stress level between you and the company? Is it between you and guidance counselors and secretaries and data people? Is it all of the above?
It's this dance or whatever, right? Like, so I have a sys coordinator I'm working with. I have the Infinite Campus implementation person. I have all my secretaries, counselors, and all kinds of staff that don't typically work over summer. And we're just doing this dance of school is coming, so we have to fix this stuff. And the clock's ticking, and like we're needing to like roll over to the new school year in Infinite Campus, so our teachers are wanting to start to come back, or get in and see like their students so they can start making those initial contacts out. Well, we've turned off Tyler's sys access because we're moving to Infinite Campus. Well, Infinite Campus isn't quite ready because these schedules aren't built yet in the new system, or it didn't move over right. It's just a deal.
Chris, if you had any advice for another district about to go through this week or about to start an implementation of an SIS, what would you tell them to prepare for this? Brace for impact, or is there something that you could have done ahead of time?
Brace for impact. Trainings and the Zoom meetings are no joke. Like when you're trained on whatever subject it is, that is the training. It's not a Zoom call that you join and you kind of like have it on your second monitor and you just kind of take it in, take it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is the training. And when they give you homework all along the way, check with your people constantly that they're actually following through with those things. And that's for the best staff. You could have great staff and they're still going to be missing pieces. And I think no matter what, it's going to be a deal.
Okay.
You're gonna hit the pocket of we're about to move all the way over, and they're just going to be a long list of things that you have to get through.
I remember our sys coordinator going through this meeting, and she said she's I want to puke. Like I feel sick to my stomach. This is not good. But looking at it from the other side, I would rather have this meeting and know the deficiencies that need to be addressed and the potential pitfalls than just going in blind thinking everything's hunky-dory. And Chris, in your situation, having your attendance screwed up for God knows how long before you caught it and were able to resolve it. Like that wouldn't be an easy cleanup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they do it. It just is an uncomfortable meeting because this is a heavy lift. Like of all of the implementations and projects that a district can do, including building a building from the ground up, like this is one of those big projects. Like a lot can go wrong. A lot can go wrong. And I don't think people quite understand that.
I know, and we can play this back years to come if I'm dead wrong on this, but I won't do this again.
No.
Like if I'm at current school and in 2-3 years leadership wants to change, I know I won't be okay with that like recommendation, and I'll be saying no.
Yeah.
So that's either me leaving my school, or it even wipes away if I have the if another school expressed interest in Chris.
Sure.
And I'm looking at that school, is that for me? And they have this coming up, I'm out.
Wow.
I'll see ya.
I know
I just won't do it again.
I know two individuals that interviewed at a school district in St. Louis last spring and were quote unquote finalists, called back for second interviews, and they both backed out. And one of the primary reasons was they were just getting ready to start the Infinite Campus implementation, and these two candidates had just gone through the Infinite Campus implementation, and they pulled out. Very lucrative job, very good school district in St. Louis.
So devil's advocate here, because we had the president or founder of CEO on this podcast,
Charlie.
and we've talked quite a lot about Infinite Campus. Are you what you're going through right now? And I did go through this years ago, but are you going through issues and challenges that are specific to the product that you're implementing, or do you think that no matter what, an SIS implementation, you're going to be going through some of the trials and tribulations that you just described?
Chris, you want to go first?
I have moved SISs several times over my career. The first was being a tech working with a director, and it was this DOS-based program moving to a Windows-based program. And that was before state reporting in Missouri had really taken off. So it was like basic data, not too bad. Still a lift, but not that bad. And there wasn't like lunch program yet. And gradebook was a separate system from this. This was just like attendance kind of stuff. It was fine. Another lift was from Windows-based program to cloud to website GUI. And that was when Missouri first introduced where kids got tied to a student number. And that had lift to it. And lunch was involved and gradebook was involved. And that was, I have that story of a secretary that as she was retiring, she started crying and she was like, Chris, I've always held. And so that was a move to Power School, by the way. And she was bitter towards me and salty towards me because of the move of the SIS.
Really?
And I was like, I had no idea that you didn't like me and that you held all these things against me. And that had a lot to do, though, when the state was starting to put more requirements in there and that, the data set got bigger. That wasn't terrible. Like, I didn't feel how I feel through this. So I know that there's so much more involved. And that was when a parent portal, like we were introducing a parent portal with the new system. It wasn't moving from one parent portal to another kind of thing. So I mean, we can maybe try to like pin it to Infinite. I would love to pick someone's brain on Power School today. If it's as bad, but it's everybody. Like you're upsetting the cook, you're upsetting it's the biggest impact on all of your faculty staff for the most part, and your community. Like it's big.
You are ripping out the engine from a car and putting in another engine,
an EV,
and the car is going to operate differently. It's going to run differently, and you have to make sure that the engine fits perfectly into those operations, or you have to change how you do things.
So to answer the question of, do you think this is the same across the board or is it specific to Infinite Campus? I don't think this is specific to Infinite Campus. I think this has a lot to do with, like Chris said, the data set and how big the project is. Any project this size is going to have problems. I have talked to people that are moving to Power School from Tyler because of Tyler going away, and they've experienced hiccups and bumps along the road. I just think it's a getting used to how the vendors operate, how these different systems operate differently than Tyler. I've got a couple complaints about how like I can't upload a CSV file into
Trash.
the system. It's ridiculous.
I hit that to I need the graduation year.
Yeah.
Tyler had an anticipated graduation year.
Right, which
That's
was
like,
wrong half the time, but yeah.
but I need it.
Yeah.
Like I need it for my third party stuff. That should be easy. Like that's easy. That's nothing. Well, in Infinite Campus, it's a custom field, and I need to mass fill it out to get us started with it. I have to submit a ticket. And Tyler, it was super. It was nothing. I could have done it in less than 10 minutes, kind of thing.
I don't want to feel like we're bagging on campus, but we are. But again, these are system changes that if it's
right,
it's because it's different from system to system. I just think you're going to have hiccups when you move a system this big. Chris, I'm going to warn you. I'm going on record. I've said this before. When you open Parent Portal for online registration, from that day till probably the third or fourth week of school, your phone, your email, website contact, everything is going to be bombarded with parents needing help creating their portal accounts. We had as many tickets in the first month of school about Parent Portal as we did the entire year prior due to that. The
way
entire
to make me
year.
feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, way to pile it on. You think this week is bad? It's getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that ray of sunshine was brought to you tonight by Infinite Campus.
No.
We should say ClassLink, ClassLink.com, an official sponsor of the K12 Tech Talk podcast. And ClassLink, I think Infinite Campus can sync together a little bit. I did say this week, and I hate like talking about COVID. But I had that.
Who's she?
Huh?
Never mind. Bad joke.
It was a bad joke. This whole thing. Okay, so my Monday was I got to school, and it's summer, mind you. I got to school earlier than I would do for the regular school year.
Which is what time?
In the 7:00 something hour. You know, I'm a more 8 to 4 guy. Okay. Besides, we can rant about I have an Apple Watch, and my watch vibrates on my wrist when a switch goes down every 3 minutes until I fix it. Right. I'm never clocked out. But anyway, so I get to school earlier this week than normal because it's Infinite Campus stuff. And then from that phone call about all the data that's messed up. So the whole day was prep for that and doing things for that. And then this phone call is supposed to be like 3 to 5. Well, that thing the Zoom call went until I think I left my office at 7:30, something that night. So I'm earlier, like, you know, I'm like a 7:30 to 7:30 day, say. And that's the gig. Just like when a network switch goes down and you go in on a Saturday, that's the gig. Just like when a server goes down, or you're swapping out wireless and you're there for several days in a row, whatever. That's our jobs. But I think the thing of it is that no one really knows I did it. And I don't need like the pats on the back, but I'm doing it, and it's just like it's expected of me, and it is my job, it is my career. And it reminded me of COVID. Like, I remember how quickly we pumped out a public website for all of our teachers to do their classroom work during COVID. And that was when I was living at my parents' house because we're building the house, you know, and COVID hits, whatever. And when tech departments had to up the ante on how much work they're pumping out with their limited staffing, this has reminded me of probably my PTSD of like that. And that's what I think I'm in the pocket of, is I'm just doing all this stuff and my head is just wrapped around Infinite Campus. And again, I don't need like everybody to know it, but you're just in the pocket of, you're just doing it. And at the end of the day, you're just going to move over to the new system. And that's what we've done.
Yeah.
No, the end of the day, you're going to turn on the new system and then people will start complaining
Yes. Yes.
because they can't input grades or that. Yeah.
And I think that's, again, when I'm trying to my headspace stay above what I know my colleagues went through, this is what drains you out. Like, this is it. Like, it sucks and it's going to keep sucking for a while. That's why we have friends that quit.
Embrace the suck.
Oops.
Anyways, that's all I got tonight. That's all I got tonight.
All right.
Hey, shout out to Steven, who helped me write some SQL stuff. Another guy, Dan, helped me out this week. Josh helped me out. Corey helped me out this week.
What did you do?
I got
everybody
help.
else doing your work.
That's your other, Mark. What would you say to people? Just ask your colleagues. We had a bit. Let me say this, and then I'm done. We had two different trainers say conflicting things, and they're the experts. And I don't want this to be an infinite campus bash on trainers either.
Well, they're CIC trainers, but yeah.
They said conflicting things with confidence. That means one is right and one is wrong. So how do you get your real answer? You're going to ask your friend Josh.
Sure.
You're going to ask your friend Corey.
Yeah.
You're going to post on your email list that you know that you can get answers from. Even K12 Tech Pro, help me out with some SQL stuff. That's your real answer. That's your clarity stuff, whatever. Anyways, I'm done. That was brought to you by Extreme Networks, dmayer at extremenetworks.com.
I'm sure Dominic loves supporting those complaints.
Wow.
I'm going to sweat over here. So maybe it's tears.
Well, okay. So speaking of sweat, the other thing on our agenda tonight, I went through a rather stressful day this week. We had a
short timer.
We had a FBI Department of Defense audit on a particular practice, and it was intense. It was about 3 hours long, with 2 FBI agents and a couple of people from the state going through our procedures. And I asked the question, how often do you do this for school districts? And like, well, we do it as much as we possibly can. Because I was like, I've talked to quite a number of my colleagues, and I know that this is a process that everybody does. I don't think anybody really knows what they need to do in order to secure your files for an FBI/DoD audit. So I thought tonight, let me give you 3 kind of main points or lessons learned from going there, surviving an FBI audit.
Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what it's related to or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I was going to start with a question. I'm going to guarantee that all of us fall into this category. Do you know what the scenario is where you would be put under the gun for an FBI/Department of Defense audit?
Department of Defense, no, but FBI, you can assume background check.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, the standards are the same. That's why I said DOD. But yes, background checks. So our HR department, when you hire somebody, they review your criminal records. I'm going to assume that every single school district in the country is doing this. I'm going to hope and pray every school district is doing this. They review your criminal records if you do have criminal records, and those files are property of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And so they govern how you can access those files.
Yes.
So I will say this, we did very, very well in the audit, but there are 3 main points that I wanted to get across that you need to do to prepare for this. Now, the FBI will provide you, or CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System, they'll provide you with a checklist ahead of time of what you need to do. So nothing here is really a surprise, but there are 3 main categories that I think everybody needs to be aware of. The very, very first one is, above all, is to minimize movement of this type of data. And I'm sure that this is true for all types of data, but when we started to describe our practices and policies, when it was very clear that we don't move these files, we don't store them, we don't transfer them, we don't put them into a system, we don't put them on a shared network drive, that cut off a ton of questions.
Sure.
It cut off a ton of requirements. It drastically reduced the number of people that need to be trained, you need to have policies enforced on. So minimizing movement was my number 1 lesson learned from this. And if you can accomplish that, you will be in a much, much better shape to go through and pass an FBI audit.
So by minimizing movement, then are you guys, when you get that report back from the state or the feds, it's being looked at and then deleted? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly it, right? So you let's say you submit a criminal record request for an employee, you get the results back. Obviously, somebody in your HR department or your district has to review those records. If you can delete those records or remove them as fast as humanly possible, don't store them, don't keep them, but also don't share them. Don't send them to other employees. Don't store them in a sys or some, your people employee system. Don't store them. We
Shared Google
personally,
Drive?
yeah, don't put them in Google. And that's the other thing too. You're not allowed to put them in Google.
A nice Google
Because
spreadsheet.
please don't. We take the files, we put them onto an encrypted flash drive and lock that flash drive in a secure room.
Yeah.
That alone eliminated a massive number of questions that were asked.
Interesting.
So it eliminated the number of laptops that I need to secure with some extra
Sure.
security. It eliminated the number of systems that they actually needed to review. They didn't need to review the security of some of our network shares because we're not storing them there. So if you can minimize movement and minimize the number of people that are storing these things and keeping track of them and looking at them, that will make your life a whole lot easier.
Agreed.
Lesson 2. You already know what you need to do. This is the hardest thing. They're going to ask you questions around antivirus. They're going to ask questions around encryption. They're going to ask questions around multi-factor. They're going to ask questions around document storage. All of the questions that they asked are questions that you know the answers to, you should be doing, or you hopefully are doing these kinds of things. There are really, really no surprises. If I could just say, follow best practices for information and technology storage and security, that's the best thing I would say. And there are specific things to say, but they ask questions around the antivirus on the machines. They ask questions around the lockout processes. How many times are you entering an incorrect password before that device is locked?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. What is your antivirus? What is your intrusion protection service? You have a network diagram, those kinds of things. All the things that we should be doing, and we know we should be doing, they're going to ask you the questions about how to do that.
Mark, what brought this on? Was this a routine thing that they come and do to you guys, or because you're so big, or what?
Yeah, we were randomly selected for this. We've done this. This is the second time I've gone through it. So maybe about 5 years ago, we went through it. I think as a larger district, and we are the largest district in the state, we kind of draw a target on ourselves.
Sure.
But according to the folks doing the audit, anybody who reviews criminal records is subject to these rules and regulations, and therefore this audit. So
Interesting.
Yep. And then my final one, and this is the hardest one to enforce in a school district, I hate to say, policies. It doesn't matter if you're doing everything right. If these things aren't written down and these things aren't enforced, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So they ask questions around, I'll give you an example. They ask questions around, so you store this information in HR, it's accessed by computers in HR. Who has access to this area? And our response was, well, anybody who comes into this area is, if they're an employee, they're escorted in. They're always in the company of an employee of the district. We have a security desk with cameras and key card access, all that kind of stuff. Their follow-up question was, is that written down?
Wow.
Is it a written policy? And if it's a written policy, what are the enforcement mechanisms? So that was something that was like, okay, we're doing everything right. We're doing the right things, but you want it written down, and you want a policy that is written in such a way that if somebody breaks that policy, there are enforcement mechanisms, which makes sense, right? It makes sense.
Makes complete sense. The whole carrot and stick kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way you can't play favorites either. You can't, someone shouldn't be able to say, well, Sally did this, but Susie did it and you didn't do anything about it,
Exactly. And even things like, when the person logs into their computer, are they given a message that this computer is property of the district and abuse of files or information is subject to discipline and termination? They're asking that level of detail.
We have that.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of
We've
you.
had that for like, Chris, do you remember that when the state auditor did those audits of schools, and that was one of the recommendations they had to have this sign-on thing? That was
Yep.
like right after I was hired. That was like 9 years ago.
So
I'm still looking at images of Mark.
I'm proud of you. The thing that worries me in general about K12 is we can write all this stuff down, but is it actually enforced? Is it enforceable? Is a very different question. And I think if I were to give everybody advice around information security and FBI and DoD audits, it is that you should have either your superintendent leadership / HR folks at the table. And those are the questions that you need to ask them. I put a policy on a computer screen that says you're not allowed to do this. If somebody breaks that, what are you, as the director of HR, what are you going to do? If the answer is it depends, well, then it's not an enforceable policy.
Right.
So that was it. Minimize movement of files. Keep it as simple as humanly possible. Do all the things that you know you're supposed to be doing for information security. And write everything down. Write it down in a policy and make sure that's enforceable.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right, Chris, do you want to talk about Fortinet? Fortinet came and saw me this week.
I think maybe you can talk about Fortinet, but Fortinet is a proud sponsor of the K12 Tech Talk podcast. Email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com.
And that goes to our friend Chris Illingworth, who is one of the big boys in the SLED vertical for Fortinet. Yes, Andrew came down and met with me for a while to talk about Fortinet's big push on going full stack Fortinet, from firewalls, the gate as they like to call it, to switches, to access points, to their EDR products. So going full 40 everything.
I heard it's cool.
And then all of that's managed in the gate. And what he said to me that was very intriguing was, as long as you have a gate that has paid subscription and paid support, there is no subscription for management of your access points and switches. All of that is done in the gate automatically, single place, management wise. And they're all, for the access points, you're just buying the hardware. You're not buying a licensed management piece. So as school districts are falling off this financial cliff in the next year or two, great sound effects. That if we need to start pinching pennies, this may be one. you got a sound effect for pinching pennies. This may be one of the ways. This may be one of the ways to do it. So yeah, email Fortinet. What is it? Fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com for more information about going full stack FortiGate, Forti switches, Forti Wi-Fi. And the other cool thing Andrew was telling me was that if you just want to play with a couple access points, you don't need to rip out all of your other gear. Just throw them on the network and they'll attach to the gate, and you can manage them from the gate. It'll work seamlessly, live side by side your other products. So yeah, reach out to Fortinet and learn some more. Maybe they can save you some money. So our final topic, final segment tonight, we figured we would quiz Mark. It's no secret he is leaving his job to travel cross country and live out of his Tesla for at least 2 months, to find himself, we believe. But to kick off this road of discovery, we are going to get retrospective with Mark. Man, that was a hell of an intro here.
It was pretty good.
That was great.
If you put some like documentary music behind that thing,
I know,
it's
I
ready
could
to
be
launch.
Hidden Burns, man.
Yeah.
So as Mark embarks on the road to discovery, we're going to look in the rearview mirror and see. I'm just nailing it, man. We're going to see. Let's just start here. Mark, of your, how many years were you at your district?
17,
And how many were as CIO?
11.
So in your let's say your entire career at the district, what was the biggest change that you saw, like instructional ed tech wise and tech wise?
I mean, I think, ooh.
And
So by the way,
AI is off the table, by the way.
yeah. None of these questions were scripted ahead of time. So
Absolutely not.
I
Nope.
apologize if I'm fumbling through. The biggest change, I think, was the shift to one-to-one.
Hmm,
That seems like an obvious answer, and I think it's an answer that everybody has gone through. But if I think back to when I first started and when you implemented technology, it was, where's the training with this, and what do you
sure.
want me to do with this? Now it is, I can't start my job without my laptop.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the bigger changes. And so all that that means, right? It just means that everything that people do is online, it is on technology. And so it has shifted from a tool to a lifestyle, I guess is the best way of saying it from a user, from a teacher and a student perspective.
Hmm. Do you think okay, well let's ask that question from the CIO perspective. As in your term as CIO, the 11 years, what do you think the biggest change was there technology wise? Is it still one to one? Is it um, changing firewalls? Is it via virtual infrastructure? Um, Advent of hotspots going home with COVID? What do you think that pure technological big X factor change was?
I mean, in terms of like, is there a single technology that I think has revolutionized or changed how things
Not
work?
not necessarily a technology, but like an event or a Nexus type event. I mean,
Sure.
it's probably COVID, but
Yeah. I mean, COVID was huge. I think what at the time, what I thought COVID was going to do to education did not happen.
hmm,
In other words, when we came back to school, I actually saw less usage of technology. People were done with it.
hmm
And so I felt like the ed tech industry, while at first we thought that COVID was going to like jumpstart that and push it to the next level, I think COVID was a little too long and people were reeling from the effects of staring at a computer screen
yeah,
for the whole day, and so there was actually a pullback.
yeah,
And so I think in hindsight, our classrooms are different. They're definitely very different, but not as different as anybody would have expected. If 10 years ago you said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, in the next decade, all of your classrooms are going to go online, fully online for a set number of months, if not years," I would have thought like the world of education is going to change dramatically.
yeah.
But if I look at our classrooms today, it's not that too far off from where they were prior to COVID in terms
Interesting.
of instructional practices and how students and teachers learn.
Uh,
I think
So,
that's a good thing, though.
oh, absolutely. To put that in context, how long was your district closed for COVID and you guys were doing virtual?
Yeah, so obviously we're in New England. We were closed longer than most. We were closed through, let's see, there was the first few months, so March to June, obviously fully closed. The next year we were also fully closed as well
Oh, wow.
and began the re-entry through at the towards the middle to the end of that year.
Wow.
So we did have we gave students and families the option. So we did have students who were fully remote
Yeah,
for a year and a half, if not longer.
that's
So it was,
interesting.
yeah, it was a very, very long time. I know of school districts in other parts of the country that reopened the same school year. We had schools or students who were fully remote for a year and a half.
Wow. Yeah, Chris, help me here. We were closed that spring because the state stepped in and said nobody's having school in the spring.
Yeah,
And then,
March.
yeah, March through the rest of the year. And then when we started back, we were full 5 days. If you want to stay home, you can. And then that was readdressed at semester and then again in third quarter.
Yeah.
And we had the majority of our population was back at the beginning
Yep.
of that year. and then semester, like half of the kids that were still out came back, and then third quarter, another half of those kids that were out came back. So the majority of our kids were back at the start of the next school year.
Okay. Yeah, we I will say this, that closure was the easy part.
Sure.
Re-entry was by far the most stressful and difficult part.
And emotional.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
you had to deal with the concerns of parents and faculty and students about,
Yep.
Getting sick, and everybody's in this closed room. And
Yeah.
very, very.
That was stressful.
So and this might be a little tough to answer. And I don't want this question to come off the wrong way. I think you'll take this the right way. From failure.
Mark is the editor of this, by the way. So
yeah,
whatever.
so
No, I'm not gonna edit any of this.
So from failure comes growth, right? Like the truest way to grow as a human, as a professional, in your job, as a family person, is to fail, right? You grow the most from failure.
Okay.
What do you think has been the most impactful failure? And by saying that, I mean led to the greatest growth for you. I mean, if you want to say it as a district, like if there was a project that struggled, or a particular thing that struggled and it ended up turning into this wonderful blossoming event, do you have an event like that, or a something? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I mean, is there an issue or a failure that I think has, in hindsight, been the most positive experience? I think if you gave me more time, I probably would be able to come up with a single event. But one of the failures that I was actually talking with a colleague at work today about was I took too much on my shoulders. In terms of if I'm working with another department or working on a very difficult project, and I know that I need to step it up.
Yeah.
That I know that something's going to fall apart, and I need to step it up and fill that gap.
Sure.
I did that too much. And I think in hindsight, that led too many people to depend on me or rely on me to keep things going. And like, as Chris is talking about the Infinite Campus implementation, in my head, I'm wondering, like, how much are you doing to make sure that this goes successfully, to compensate for, that another person is not going to check the data. That somebody's not going to go through training, so you're going to do extra. In hindsight, I did that because I didn't want a project or an implementation to go sour.
Yeah.
But in my retrospect, I realized that by putting stuff on my shoulders, I was allowing other people to actually back further off.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. I get it. Completely get it.
Yeah.
If so, you're leaving and please edit this out if this is inappropriate or you don't want this. Your departure wasn't exactly planned. Not that you've been fired or anything bad here. I'm sure there are things left undone.
Yeah.
What's one big project or one big initiative that you see that you're like, damn, I really wish I could stick around and see this project done or to completion?
That's an easy answer. We are in the middle of implementing a particular system that I'm really excited about. It's a parent communication tool. And without giving the names of the tool, there's plenty of them on the market.
Because they're not a sponsor.
No, I just, I don't really want to.
We don't give those plugs for free. Besides Dale. Dale today got one.
Well, the reason I'm not going to plug it, because it's not necessarily about the technology, but it's more about us changing how we communicate to families.
Sure.
And right now we communicate simply by just sending a bunch of emails and a bunch of robocalls. And it's just like, throw it out there and hope it sticks. And we're implementing a new system, but at the same time changing how we communicate with families. And that this technology is really going to help us out with that. I was really, really, really hoping I would be able to be a part of the implementation a whole lot longer than I am. Unfortunately, things with procurement and contracts got locked up.
Mm.
And I was hoping I would be at least able to be there for the first 25%, 50% of the implementation. It hasn't even started.
And you're a quitter, and you're walking out the door.
Yeah, so that's one that I have been so excited about because I just feel like we as school districts are terrible at communicating, and I was really hoping about that this would be something I'd be able to be a part of. And so unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of my control, I have not been able to be a part of the implementation, and I'm really going to miss that.
So my last question, are you, as you walk out the door, before you walk out the door, are you taking 10 minutes tomorrow to get out a notepad and an envelope and writing the note to whoever follows you? You know how the presidents write the letter to the one that follows them? Are you writing the letter to who follows you?
Nope.
So
You hadn't thought of this, have you?
no, I have thought about it.
Have
And I've
you?
thought about different ways of doing it. I will say one thing to my predecessor or to my successor, and I will say it publicly and I'll say it privately to the person. My team means more to me than anything in this world. And if you can
Better not screw with them.
in a nicer way, but take care of them.
Right.
Take care of my team and they will take care of you. And I feel like that's something that I did well over the last decade or so, that I prioritized their sanity and their mental health and their time. And going back to one of my comments of I did too much, I don't regret ever doing that for my own team. One of my team leads gave me some really, really good advice when I first started, and I've held on to that, which is 40 hours a week is enough. Don't ask people to work longer than 40 hours. Don't call people on the weekends. Give them time. And the reason he said that was because when people get tired, they make more mistakes.
Sure.
And I held on to that one, and I really encourage people to leave. If I saw people staying till 6 o'clock at night, I'm gonna walk them out the door. Let's go, let's go. It's time for you to go home.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of that stress on my shoulders, but I feel like I took care of my team so that they had the mental space and capacity and sanity to take care of the district.
Sure.
So that would be my message to my predecessor. Successor. I will say I did leave. I don't know if I'll leave a note or not. I did leave a secret present for them though.
My bobblehead?
No, I took your bobblehead home. I have one piece of artwork in my office.
Yes.
It's my favorite piece of artwork, and it is a photo of, I should post a picture of it because it means so much to me. It's a picture of a whole bunch of high school students lined up against a wall in different color graduation robes. And it's our summer graduation. And the reason they're all in different colors is because all the different high schools, their summer graduates graduate at the same time, and they all wear their home high school robes. So it's like a rainbow of graduates. Behind that painting, I've left a QR code. And if you scan that QR code,
it takes you to the podcast.
It will, not the podcast, but it will take
Amazon gift card.
My successor will be taken to a YouTube video with some advice.
Oh,
that's fun.
Yeah. So
I thought you were gonna set up a network share that has some crazy stuff in it, and you're seeing how long it can be out there before someone notices.
That would be funny. That would
you should put all the passwords in a network share before you leave. That's wide open. And it's there's a game to play. Welcome to the new job.
Sucker.
That would be such a fun thing for the district to say, yeah, we got hacked, and here's why. And his name is Mark.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
It was a welcome gift. No, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. But in true fashion, my team left a present for me. So today, we do a lot of remote work, and Fridays are the big remote days, so it'll be very quiet tomorrow. So today was kind of my team's last goodbye. And I walked into the office, and when I was walking into the office, when you guys came to visit us, remember they put a picture of my face?
Mhm.
They like to do that stuff. And so when I entered the building and I got to our floor, there was my face next to the QR or to the tap card thing. And then when I came around the corner, my office was filled with rubber duckies. And it comes back from an old like let's get our ducks in a row phrase. And so there was rubber duckies, little tiny ones all over my office, like normal size ones. There was a kiddie pool filled with water with dozens of rubber duckies floating in it, and then one giant rubber ducky with a middle finger.
You should bring the giant rubber ducky to the lake.
I might have to.
Yeah, see, get it in your suitcase.
Yep. Yeah. So that was fun. And then we had a really good lunch. And last week we ended the episode with saying goodbye to a colleague of mine. It was very, very bittersweet. But it was really nice to be able to end on a good note today. So yeah.
So you walk out the door tomorrow, a free man, and you will be getting on an airplane Saturday
Yeah.
to come see us
Yeah.
at Midwest Tech
What
Talk.
timing is that?
I know.
Planned.
Very,
Not
very
coincidence.
intentional.
I looked at the calendar and I knew I was going to the Ozarks on the 20th, and I intentionally chose the 19th so I could really have fun. That was fully intentional that tomorrow's my last day and then I jump in. But I will say this. Everybody's asking me, what am I going to like? What's the first thing I'm going to do? And when I tell people in New England and Boston that the first thing I'm doing is getting on an airplane to Missouri and going to the Ozarks, there's usually like a slight chuckle.
Are you laundering money?
And then they say, "Have you seen the show?"
Life's weird, man. It's weird, Mark, that we met. The podcast is weird. It's weird that we know Mark from Boston, up New England way, that just quit his job and is free falling without a good plan, and he's gonna come see us.
Yeah. Self-discovery. A trip of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Life's weird. Life's cool.
Yeah, you guys are my
hope it works out for you.
You are my midlife crisis.
It's not good.
You guys were the first ones I told that I left.
Huh.
I kind of told my wife.
Yeah,
No, I take that back. I told my wife, but she didn't get the message. You guys were the first ones to hear.
Cool.
So yeah.
We were before Tom?
Tom was part of my decision.
I figured. Yeah.
Very cool. Good stuff.
Midwest Tech Talk. If you're listening and you're coming to Midwest Tech Talk, bring your Josh bobblehead. I'll sign it.
Hey, there might be a new bobblehead.
Oh,
who knows?
All right.
Hold
Anything
on.
else?
I got my bobblehead right here.
Bring it, Mark. I'll sign it. We need to see how many bobbleheads we can get together on the stage at one time.
Just picture my wife and I in the Ozarks.
It's not.
That was on my desk.
Hey, while Mark is doing this,
I don't know where my bobblehead is. I might
he lost me.
We keep plugging Midwest Tech Talk. We are the keynote.
Yes.
So the thought is, so we're going to be at Midwest Tech Talk, and day one we're doing an episode up on the stage. We have some interviews planned, and we're going to record that thing, get the audio, and that's going to be the hopefully upcoming episode to share out as well.
Have you guys ever joined Toastmasters?
Mm-mm.
So I went to my first meeting last night as a Toastmaster, and if you're listening and you're a Toastmaster, email us. Let us know, k12techtalk@gmail.com. So there were two very distinct dynamics in the room. I should say demographics.
What's a Toastmaster?
It's someone it's a group of individuals that practice public speaking skills, and they it's actually pretty neat. But there was a very
I thought you were talking about bread and like toast.
No. Yes, you get certified in how to make toast. People were either over the age of 60 or 40-ish and younger. And pretty much everyone that was 40-ish and younger had a podcast. Like legit. There were like 4 people in the room that had podcasts. I just thought it was funny. But if you are a Toastmaster, email us and let us know. I'm seriously thinking about joining.
I prefer Nutella on my toast, or my grandmother's elderberry jelly.
Well, maybe we might be meeting Mark's grandma. So if you're coming to Midwest Tech Talk, we'll see you there. If not, keep on listening, keep on sharing. We'll see you. Shoot us an email, K12TechTalk@gmail.com. Give us some topics. Let us know what you like. We don't really care what you don't like. We'll see you next week.
Shout out Microsoft.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about the phrase of the way.